So, hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. I'm your host, intuitive counselor, spiritual guide, Victoria Shaw. And today I wanted to pop in front of the camera because I had a few minutes and the microphone and answer some questions that I got from some people. When I was giving a talk not so long ago to a big group of people. And when I give these big talks, and some of you may already know this, what I usually do is I'll take questions from the audience, but I do it in a very particular way. I have everybody write down their question on a piece of paper, and then I just reach into a hat or a vessel. I think in this case, it was a basket. And I just see which questions pop out of my hands. And this is helpful for a couple of reasons. One, when I'm talking to big groups of like 80, 100, 200 people, right? I can't answer everybody's questions in those 45 minutes. And yet I always trust that the questions that get selected are the ones that are going to be most beneficial, not just to the person who's chosen, but to the entire audience, right? And though I know there's a lot of people who do this that kind of like follow the thread, or mediums that, are seeing what spirits talk to them and then finding the person. I don't do that at all. But for me, that act of having to choose who to respond to would make me nuts. It would make me nuts because I would feel bad about not choosing certain people, or I would worry or overthink about how to choose the right person. And so this kind of takes all of that aspect, that egoic fun out of it. And I just let the universe decide, right? And it always works out beautifully. And the other benefit of doing it this way that I am so grateful for is that I take home all the extra questions. And when I have time to answer some of them on the podcast, I have a list of questions from folks like you that I can answer. And sometimes they're personal questions. And then sometimes they're more general questions like the one I'm going to answer today. And there's actually, I think, two I'm going to get to, but we'll see how it flows. So this person says, I know I have the capacity to tap into very powerful intuition. Why do I fall out of alignment and then completely forget my power and dissociate from my gifts? And how do I reconnect? Well, that's a beautiful question. And the guys already have a lot to say about it. And I'm going to speak more generally than to this specific person, but some specificness may come through too. And so the first thing to know is that even though your intuition is always flowing, it's always guiding you, it's always there. As a rule, most of us haven't been taught to tune into that, to listen to that, to go back to that, right? We've been taught instead to disregard all of those nudges and tune into the channel of the human mind, right? So all the things that we've been taught, all the things that we should do, all the things that we've learned are right or wrong, good or bad, we have been taught to take out a little machete and hack our way through that nonsense rather than just relaxing, releasing, and following our flow and our inner guidance. Okay. And so you, my beautiful friend, I'm going to call you, let's make sure I'm not going to call you by your actual name. I'm not Claudia. I'm going to call you Claudia. You are not alone in this. Okay. Probably every listener here, right, has had moments of brilliance of, oh, the angels are singing and something came through to me and it makes perfect sense. And I followed it and it came out great. And then also moments where, we totally forget that we have, the ruby slippers on our sweet little feet to take us home, that we forget that we have a backpack full of, spiritual superpower, superhero tools, right? And we go back to doing things the old way and we take out that machete and we try to hack our way through the rainforest. And it's slow going and it rarely gets the job done. And the guides say, even in the rainforest with the machete, y'all would benefit from listening to us because we would get you through that mess faster. Right. So the first answer to that question is habit, conditioning. Like it's not our first go-to for most human beings. And we have to kind of retrain ourselves to do that and retrain ourselves to listen. And the good news is the moment that you realize or recognize that you forgot to ask, that you're not tuned in, that you fell out of alignment, that you have these beautiful, powerful gifts, and you just went like this for a minute. You can open your eyes, you can realign yourself, and then you can move forward from there. Right. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a beautiful moment that we wake up and recognize, oops, right? I fell out of alignment a little bit and I want to reconnect. And oftentimes that is enough to reconnect with your intuition by just remembering that it's there, remembering you can always ask for guidance, ask a question, and then, of course, you have to surrender and get out of the way and wait to see what comes through, right? And sometimes that's instantaneous, right? But sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And so intuition is always an act of surrender where we let go of that need to know, we let go of that need to control, we let go of that need to figure it all out. We take a deep breath, we let go, and we ask for guidance. And I promise you, friends, it will always arrive. Okay. So that's sort of the first answer to that question. You forget because, it's habit. And to reconnect, it's just the moment you remember, you just have to ask. You just have to ask. And that alone, that intention alone will get the party started again and will get you back into the flow. Right. But there's other reasons why we fall out of alignment. Let me say this doesn't really ask the question of why do I fall out of alignment? Because sometimes it's more than habit, right? Sometimes it can be from overthinking, right? Certain things just really trigger us and we go into our overthinking. And again, it's kind of a habit, it's kind of a pattern thing, but there might be certain areas where you just get in the habit of overthinking. Another one the guides say is sometimes, right, we get an initial hit, but we don't trust ourselves, right? Or we get an initial hit or initial idea, but then the naysayers come in, right? And they say, how do you know that? You can't know that. That can't be true. You need to be afraid of this right now. You need to pay attention to that, right? And so, in our aim to please and fit in and do the right thing, we fall out of alignment with our intuition and our higher selves, and we get back into that forest, trying to hack our way with the machete or just, finding ourselves tripping on a bunch of weeds with, thick foliage growing all around us. So it's okay. So sometimes it really is just the desire to please other people or work with other people or prove ourselves to other people will throw us out of alignment and out of our intuition because we believe we need to do what they're doing, and we forget that we have a superpower that they may not recognize that they have yet, right? Or they might not recognize the value of. Other reasons sometimes that we get thrown out of alignment is because we're having the big feels, right? And that can be really, really powerful too. So something might be triggering you, might get really emotional. It might send you back into like a tailspin of all the other times this went wrong and what's going wrong. Or you might kind of get, stuck into victim mode or angry mode or any of those things. And again, it's not wrong. It's not bad. It's also very human. It's quite expected on this journey. And the trick is, again, once you wake up, once you remember, right, then you don't beat yourself up. You go, oh, sweet human, you got a little overwhelmed. I love you so much. And then you give yourself a big old hug. If it's a really big feeling and it's hard to shake, you just ride the wave until it's done. It won't last forever, right? You let the mind go soft and say, it's all right, it's going to pass, right? You can think about something more pleasant. That helps me a lot. But a lot of times I just know it'll pass. I'll wait it out, right? And then you just set that intention to realign with your North Star. You just set that intention. It will come, it will flow. You will get there every single time. And then the other reason why we sometimes forget to use our intuition, right, is because we're a little afraid of it. So the last one, or the next one, and another reason why we sometimes forget or fall out of alignment with our intuition is this one, right? This person asks me, how do you work with someone who gets scared of their intuition? They're scared to tap into it, right? And that can be a thing. That can be a thing. So sometimes we're just afraid. And I want to talk about some of the reasons why we might be afraid, because it dovetails really nicely with the first listener's question about how sometimes we forget that we have this amazing superpower, or maybe even we know we have the superpower and we're afraid to use it. Okay. One reason people are afraid to use it again is that conditioning, right? We've been told in this body, maybe in other bodies, right, that it's wrong, it's bad, right? There's something early on, every human being has had an experience that I know of, right, where you knew something with that spidey sense. And but you went to someone and they said, you can't know that. That's not true. No, I'm mom, you feel like mom's having an off day. Mom says, no, I'm happy. Mm. And so you shut it down. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel right. The world does not tell you it's okay. Some of us too in other bodies have even had like persecution, right? Or told we were insane or crazy, right? Because the world wasn't always ready for this kind of wisdom in other arenas. I'm going to give myself a big old hug. Mwah. And I'm going to send one to all of you because the world is ready now and you're totally safe. I promise. You're okay. It's all right. And very most importantly, we always can listen to our intuition for us, and we don't even have to prove to anybody else that it's our truth, right? You can listen and you can follow, and it doesn't matter if anyone agrees with you or not. So, hello, let that one sink in for a minute, right? As we often say on the show, your truth is for you alone. And so you can listen and you don't have to tell anybody else how you know, right? Some people I know make up excuses for how they know, right? It doesn't matter, right? What matters is that you give space and voice to you. Okay. So that's one of the reasons that we sometimes are afraid of our intuition because we've had a lot of conditioning that tells us it's not safe. And the way to work with that is to give yourself, again, that voice, that audience, start to listen, start to tune in, remind yourself you don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to tell anyone about it, but you do want to make space to listen, to be curious, and just to see where it takes you. And as you get more comfortable too, you can take those micro baby steps of listening and following, and you'll see that they're right, and then you'll develop more trust and more safety with it, right? But at the beginning, all you really have to do is just make that decision to listen, to pay attention, and create the safe space within yourself, right? To start to connect with your intuition and let your light shine. Okay. The other reason why we're sometimes afraid of our intuition is because we don't think we're going to like what it's going to say. Okay. And so I've probably told this story before, but one of the things that used to happen to me a lot, more with counseling, but also with the intuitive work that I do, is every once in a while, not so it wasn't a lot, but every once in a while I'd get a client, right? And they'd make an appointment and then they'd cancel, right? And they'd make another appointment and then they'd cancel. And then, they'd do this like 4 or 5 times. And by the time they finally came in, what was really going on was they were worried about what I was going to say, right? Because they knew they had their own intuition. Maybe they were like, I want you to tell me if I should leave this relationship, or I want you to tell me if I should take this job or whatever. And they kind of knew in themselves, right, what the answer was, and they just weren't ready to hear it, right? Other times, too, I'm being prompted to say they had an idea of what it was. Their monkey mind was going, she's going to hate this. She's going to tell me not to do this. She's going to tell me it's a mistake, right? Because maybe when I had a dream and I went to my mom, she said it's a mistake. And so we project that onto our intuition, or in my case, right, an intuitive reader who's connecting you with your spirit guides, right? And so we're afraid to get the answer, right? We're afraid to know, either, because it could be a bad answer or something that we don't want, or we have an inkling at something that we don't want, or we're just projecting horribleness and fearfulness, right, onto our intuition. So many of us too have been raised to think intuition is really scary and bad, right? A lot of the TV shows that talk about intuition talk about people having premonitions of terrible things that are going to happen. And every once in a while that's true. But it's not the norm. It's not the norm. 9 out of 10 times, if not 9.9 out of 10 times, right? My intuition is giving me like uplifting, encouraging information. And even when it's saying, no, maybe don't do that. It's not from a fearful, scary place. It's just a subtle, gentle course correction should I choose to take it. And, every once in a while, my intuition is telling me something that I'm not really ready to know or act on, right? I talked about for years before I left my marriage, I had a feeling it was in its last, in its last breaths. And that made me sad because I loved my husband. I still do, even though we are very, very thoroughly uncoupled now. But right, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so I did not force myself. I didn't even rip the band-aid off. I just listened, right? I just let it be there, and I let my human self get comfortable with it. Whew, and I let myself get curious with it. And I reminded myself that I still, as a human being, even if I'm acting in fear and ego, right? I still have free will, and I don't have to do anything ever that I'm not ready to do, right? But it's good to listen. It's good to listen. It's good to pay attention, right? Because if I do that, right, then I can be guided to continue my life in the best way possible. Right. And sometimes if your intuition is telling you something that's uncomfortable, right, you can keep asking, you can keep getting curious. You can ask, how do I get comfortable with this? Is there another way? Because your intuition is not ever telling you what to do. It's never telling you what to do. It's never an imperative, right? Your higher self, soul, source, all that, where all that good stuff of your intuition comes from, loves the pants off of you, wants to see you thrive, and also thoroughly and completely accepts and respects your free will, right? And knows that you'll get there however you get there in your own time. And remember, too, my friends, and this one I think is probably the most important thing that's going to come through today, you don't get the answer without the question. You don't get the answer without the question. Meaning, when that intuition comes through, at some point, in some level, you have asked for it and you've been asking for it, right? It might be a unrequited wish or desire, or something that you really don't like that you're trying to move away from, or something you're trying to bring more of in your life. But the universe, your higher self, source, right, is always, always tabulating this stuff, right? And you're constantly creating. And so your intuition is always answering that call. It can't not be, right? And so nothing that's going to come through from your higher self or soul is going to be something that on some level you haven't asked for. You haven't asked for clarity on, you haven't invited in, right? It's not here to whack you on the head and beat you up. No, no, no. It's here to love you and support you and help you and guide you. And I think that when you understand it that way, right, a lot of that fear goes away. Right? All right. The last little thing I think that comes through too, and this is looping back a little bit, but it's coming through. So I'm going to share sometimes too, we're afraid of our intuition for the same reason that we fall out of alignment with it, right? We've been taught not to trust it. We've been taught that it's not safe. We've been taught, some people in certain religious backgrounds have been taught it's like from the devil, don't listen to that. Or we think that maybe we're going to, tune into the wrong thing and we don't know what our intuition is and what it isn't, or depending on your belief system, there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can believe. But remember, when it really comes down to it, your intuition, your true highest guidance is coming from your soul. It's coming from source. It's coming from all that is. It is only here to support you. It is loving, right? It is, well, that is enough. It's kind, it's supportive, it respects you, it loves you, it is you. It's like your higher you knocking on your head. Now, it's not trying to knock you on your head in a way that, might be trying to get your attention. Remember, it's always answering a call that you've asked for. It's always in cooperation with you. So on some level, you're always in control. You, the human on the ground, is always, not egoically in control necessarily, but it's always responding to what you're asking for. Okay. And it's always here to support you. And you, honest to God, can't get it wrong. So my advice to both of these listeners is be gentle with yourself. Both of these questioners and any listeners that resonate with this question or these questions, first of all, be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, just keep asking, right? When you forget, just remember, when you remember, that's enough. All those moments of waking up are going to help you more and more connect and last longer in your remembering, right? And then as you remember, oh, wow, I have this backpack full of, superpowers right here, right now, my intuition, my higher knowing, my spiritual support team. Then just make that connection to tune in, get out of the way, and let her flow. And that's all it is. That's all you got to do. All right, I'm so glad I sat down to answer these questions. I'm so glad that I got my microphone working again because I just really love the way my voice sounds with this microphone. So I am happy, happy, happy for that too. I am so happy that I get to, answer these questions for my living and travel around and teach to people. It's so much fun. It's just such an honor and a privilege to do this. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. And I love you and I love what I get to do. So enjoy the rest of your day and namaste.